The Final 24 Hours, a documentary. Introduction. The final 24 hours of Jesus Christ's life represent a pivotal period in human history, profoundly shaping religious belief, cultural narratives, and ethical thought across millennia. This documentary aims to meticulously reconstruct these critical hours, from the solemn observance of the Last Supper to the somber moments of his burial. We will delve into the biblical accounts, cross-referencing them with historical and archaeological evidence to provide a comprehensive and nuanced understanding of the events that transpired in first-century Judea. By examining the political climate, Roman legal practices, Jewish customs, and the brutal realities of crucifixion, we seek to illuminate the profound significance of Jesus' passion and its enduring legacy. The Last Supper. The narrative of Jesus' final 24 hours commences with the Last Supper, a Passover Seder shared with his disciples in an upper room in Jerusalem. This event, chronicled in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, is not merely a meal but a profound act of institution and prophecy. As they reclined at the table, Jesus revealed that one of them would betray him, casting a shadow of apprehension over the gathering. During this meal, Jesus instituted the Eucharist, breaking bread and sharing wine, declaring them to be his body and blood, a new covenant for the forgiveness of sins. This act laid the foundation for Christian communion, a central sacrament observed by millions worldwide. Historically, the Passover Seder itself was a deeply symbolic meal, commemorating the liberation of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. Jesus' reinterpretation of its elements imbued it with new meaning, foreshadowing his sacrifice. Archaeological evidence from first-century Jerusalem provides context for such gatherings. While the exact location of the Last Supper remains a subject of scholarly debate, the architecture and customs described align with known practices of the period. The upper room suggests a larger, more private space, often used for special occasions, reflecting the significance of this final meal. Gethsemane. Agony and arrest. Following the Last Supper, Jesus and his disciples proceeded to the Garden of Gethsemane, located at the foot of the Mount of Olives. This serene setting soon became the stage for an intense spiritual struggle, often referred to as the agony in the garden. Here, Jesus prayed fervently, expressing profound anguish and a desire for the cup of suffering to pass from him, yet ultimately submitting to divine will. The Gospels describe his sweat becoming like drops of blood, a phenomenon known as hematidrosis, which can occur under extreme psychological stress. While Jesus prayed, his disciples struggled to remain vigilant, repeatedly falling asleep. This period of intense prayer and emotional turmoil highlights the immense burden Jesus carried, anticipating the physical and spiritual ordeal that lay ahead. The betrayal by Judas Iscariot, one of his own disciples, further compounds the tragedy of this hour. Judas arrived with a large crowd, including Roman soldiers and temple guards, identifying Jesus with a kiss, a gesture of affection twisted into a sign of betrayal. This act led to Jesus' arrest. Peter, in a moment of impulsive loyalty, drew a sword and cut off the ear of the high priest's servant, Malchus, only for Jesus to miraculously heal the man and rebuke Peter, emphasizing his non-violent submission to his fate. Archaeological findings in the vicinity of the Mount of Olives have revealed ancient olive presses, supporting the historical accuracy of a garden setting named Gethsemane. While specific structures from the first century are scarce, the enduring presence of ancient olive trees, some potentially dating back to Jesus' time, provides a tangible link to this momentous event. Trials. Before Annas, Caiaphas, and the Sanhedrin. Following his arrest, Jesus was subjected to a series of trials, beginning with a preliminary hearing before Annas, the former high priest and father-in-law to Caiaphas, the current high priest. This initial interrogation focused on Jesus' teachings and his disciples, seeking grounds for formal charges. Jesus' responses, emphasizing the public nature of his ministry, frustrated his interrogators. Subsequently, Jesus was brought before Caiaphas and the Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish council. This trial, held in the dead of night, was fraught with legal irregularities according to Jewish law, which typically prohibited capital trials at night and required a waiting period before a guilty verdict. The proceedings were characterized by conflicting testimonies from false witnesses, failing to establish a coherent charge. The climax of this trial occurred when Caiaphas directly challenged Jesus, demanding to know if he was the Messiah, the Son of God. Jesus' affirmative response, "I am," and his reference to the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, was deemed blasphemous by the high priest, who tore his robes in a dramatic display of condemnation. This declaration sealed Jesus' fate before the Jewish authorities, leading to his formal condemnation and subsequent physical abuse by the guards. Historical context reveals the complex political dynamics of first-century Judea. The Sanhedrin, while wielding significant religious authority, operated under the overarching control of the Roman Empire. Their decision to condemn Jesus, while rooted in religious concerns, also reflected a desire to maintain order and appease their Roman overlords, fearing that Jesus' growing popularity might incite rebellion. Trials before Pilate and Herod. Unable to execute a death sentence themselves under Roman occupation, the Sanhedrin brought Jesus before Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea. The charges shifted from blasphemy, a Jewish religious offense, to sedition against Rome, specifically claiming to be King of the Jews. Pilate, initially finding no fault in Jesus, attempted to release him, recognizing the envy of the Jewish leaders. He famously offered the crowd a choice between Jesus and Barabbas, a notorious insurrectionist, hoping they would choose Jesus. However, swayed by the chief priests, the crowd clamored for Barabbas' release and Jesus' crucifixion. Pilate, seeking to avoid a riot and maintain Roman order, sent Jesus to Herod Antipas, the Tetrarch of Galilee, who was also in Jerusalem for Passover. Herod, curious to see Jesus perform a miracle, questioned him extensively, but Jesus remained silent. Disappointed, Herod and his soldiers mocked Jesus, dressed him in an elegant robe, and sent him back to Pilate. This exchange highlights the political maneuvering and the shared responsibility for Jesus' condemnation among both Jewish and Roman authorities. Upon Jesus' return, Pilate, despite his conviction of Jesus' innocence, succumbed to the pressure of the crowd. In a symbolic gesture, he washed his hands, declaring himself innocent of Jesus' blood, and then handed Jesus over to be scourged and crucified. This act underscores the precarious position of Roman governors in maintaining peace in a volatile province, often at the expense of justice. Archaeological excavations in Jerusalem have identified potential locations for Pilate's praetorium. While the traditional site is the Antonia Fortress, recent scholarship and archaeological findings suggest that Herod's palace, located in the western part of the city, is a more probable site for Pilate's residence and the trial of Jesus. Remains of a large paved courtyard, known as the Gabbatha or pavement, have been uncovered, consistent with biblical descriptions of the trial setting. The scourging and the Via Dolorosa. Before crucifixion, Roman practice often included scourging, a brutal flogging intended to weaken the condemned and hasten death. Jesus endured this horrific punishment, typically administered with a flagrum, a short whip with lead balls or bone fragments tied into the leather thongs. Medical analyses suggest that such scourging would have caused deep lacerations, significant blood loss, and severe pain, leading to hypovolemic shock. This extreme physical trauma would have left Jesus in a weakened state, making the subsequent journey to Golgotha even more arduous. Following the scourging, Jesus was forced to carry his own cross to the place of execution. While popular depictions often show Jesus carrying the entire cross, historical and archaeological evidence suggests he likely carried only the patibulum, the horizontal crossbeam, which could weigh between 75 and 125 pounds. The vertical stake or stipes was often permanently fixed at the execution site. This forced march through the streets of Jerusalem is known as the Via Dolorosa, or Way of Suffering. Weakened by the scourging and lack of sleep, Jesus stumbled repeatedly under the weight of the patibulum. Roman soldiers, observing his inability to continue, compelled Simon of Cyrene, a passerby, to assist him in carrying the cross. Along the route, women of Jerusalem wept for him, to whom Jesus offered words of comfort and warning about the impending destruction of Jerusalem. The exact route of the Via Dolorosa in first-century Jerusalem is a subject of ongoing debate among scholars and archaeologists. While the traditional route, marked by the Stations of the Cross, dates back to Byzantine times, archaeological findings continue to shed light on the topography of ancient Jerusalem. The path would have led through crowded streets, past markets and residential areas, exposing Jesus to public humiliation and scorn, a key aspect of Roman crucifixion as a deterrent. Crucifixion, Golgotha. The culmination of Jesus' passion occurred at Golgotha, meaning place of the skull, a site of execution outside the city walls of Jerusalem. Here, Jesus was crucified alongside two criminals, a common practice for Roman capital punishment. Crucifixion was a brutal and prolonged method of execution, designed to inflict maximum suffering and public humiliation, serving as a stark warning against rebellion or defiance of Roman authority. Historical and archaeological evidence confirms the widespread use of crucifixion by the Romans in the 1st century. The discovery of the crucified man Jehohanan in a tomb near Jerusalem, whose heel bone was still pierced by an iron nail, provides direct archaeological proof of this horrific practice. This finding offers a chilling glimpse into the physical realities of crucifixion, corroborating the biblical accounts. Jesus' time on the cross was marked by immense physical agony and profound spiritual declarations. He uttered several significant phrases, known as the 7 last words, including a prayer for his tormentors: "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." The Gospels record supernatural events accompanying his death: darkness covering the land, an earthquake, and the tearing of the temple veil from top to bottom, symbolizing a new access to God. Medical analysis of crucifixion indicates that death typically resulted from a combination of factors, including hypovolemic shock from blood loss during scourging, traumatic shock, and asphyxiation due to the inability to properly exhale. The sustained effort to lift the body to breathe would eventually lead to exhaustion and suffocation. The Roman soldiers, to hasten death, would often break the legs of the crucified, preventing them from pushing up to breathe. However, they found Jesus already dead and instead pierced his side with a spear, from which blood and water flowed, further confirming his death. Death and burial. Jesus' death on the cross occurred around the 9th hour, marking the culmination of his earthly ministry and suffering. The Gospels record that a Roman centurion, witnessing the events, declared, "Truly this man was the Son of God." The swiftness of his death, compared to the prolonged agony often associated with crucifixion, has been attributed to the severity of the scourging and the profound physical and emotional stress he endured. With the Sabbath approaching at sunset, there was a pressing need to remove the bodies from the crosses. Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy and respected member of the Sanhedrin who was secretly a disciple of Jesus, bravely approached Pilate to request Jesus' body for burial. Pilate, after confirming Jesus' death with the centurion, granted the request. Joseph, along with Nicodemus, another prominent Jewish leader and secret follower, took charge of the burial. Following Jewish burial customs, Jesus' body was wrapped in clean linen cloths, along with a mixture of myrrh and aloes, weighing about 100 pounds, provided by Nicodemus. He was then laid in a new tomb hewn out of rock, belonging to Joseph of Arimathea, in a garden near Golgotha. A large stone was rolled against the entrance of the tomb to seal it. To prevent the disciples from stealing the body and claiming a resurrection, Pilate, at the request of the chief priests and Pharisees, ordered Roman guards to secure the tomb. Archaeological discoveries in Jerusalem have provided insights into 1st century burial practices. Rock-cut tombs, often with rolling stones to seal the entrance, were common among the wealthy. While Jesus' specific tomb has not been definitively identified, the descriptions in the Gospels align with known archaeological evidence of burial customs of the period. The Garden Tomb, a popular Protestant pilgrimage site, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, revered by many Christian denominations, are two prominent locations traditionally associated with Jesus' burial and resurrection, though their historical authenticity as the exact site remains debated. Conclusion. The final 24 hours of Jesus Christ's life, culminating in his crucifixion and burial, represent a narrative of immense suffering, profound sacrifice, and enduring theological significance. From the intimate Last Supper to the agony in Gethsemane, The unjust trials, the brutal scourging, the arduous journey along the Via Dolorosa, and the excruciating death on Golgotha, each moment is etched into the annals of history and faith. This period, meticulously documented in the Gospels and corroborated by historical and archaeological insights, transcends a mere historical event. It forms the bedrock of Christian belief and continues to inspire billions worldwide. The events of these 24 hours underscore the complex interplay of religious authority, political power, and human frailty in first-century Judea. The Roman method of crucifixion, a barbaric tool of imperial control, became, through Jesus' death, a symbol of redemption and hope. The meticulous burial, undertaken by unexpected allies, set the stage for the most pivotal claim of Christianity, the resurrection. While this documentary focuses on the historical and contextual aspects of these final hours, their spiritual resonance remains a powerful force, inviting contemplation on themes of sacrifice, forgiveness, and the ultimate triumph of life over death. The legacy of these 24 hours continues to shape human civilization, offering a narrative that is both deeply personal and universally transformative.